Good morning. In February 1959, 9 experienced Soviet hikers pitched a tent on the slopes of Kholat-Syakhl mountain in the northern Urals. By morning, all 9 were dead, scattered across the frozen landscape, some barefoot, some in their underwear, in temperatures approaching minus 30 degrees Celsius. 67 years later, we still do not know with certainty what drove them from that tent. Today, I want to walk you through what we do know, what the evidence tells us, and why, despite 75 proposed theories, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the 20th century's most compelling, unresolved mysteries. Here is our roadmap. We will begin with the expedition itself, who these young people were and what they set out to accomplish. Then we will reconstruct the fatal night of February 1st to 2nd, piece by piece. From there, we examine the discovery of the bodies over the following weeks and the puzzling forensic evidence they yielded. Next, we turn to the 2 leading scientific hypotheses that have emerged in recent years, particularly the slab avalanche model published in Nature in 2021. We close by surveying the broader landscape of theories and reflecting on why this case continues to resist closure. Let us begin with the people at the heart of this tragedy. The Dyatlov group was not a random collection of amateurs. It was an elite hiking team from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, pursuing the highest difficulty classification available in Soviet outdoor recreation at the time. Understanding who they were is essential, because every subsequent theory about their deaths must contend with the fact that these were not people who made novice mistakes in the wilderness. The group comprised 10 individuals, though only 9 would continue past the settlement of Vizhay. Igor Dyatlov, 23 years old, assembled a team of fellow students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, 8 men and 2 women ranging in age from 20 to 38. This was a Category 3 expedition, the highest difficulty classification in the Soviet system, requiring demonstrated technical competence in ski hiking, navigation, and winter survival. Their intended route covered roughly 300 kilometers across the northern Urals. On January 28th, Yuri Yudin turned back due to severe joint pain, a mundane medical decision that would save his life and deprive investigators of the only witness who might have explained what happened next. On January 23rd, the group departed Sverdlovsk, now Yekaterinburg, by train. 2 days later, they reached Ivdel, the last town with rail access, and proceeded to the settlement of Vizhay. On January 28th, as I mentioned, Yudin turned back, a decision that haunts the archival record. By January 31st, the remaining 9 had reached the edge of the highland zone and were navigating toward Otorten Mountain. On February 1st, they established their final camp on the eastern slope of Kholat-Syakhl, a name that translates chillingly from the Mansi language as Dead Mountain. Sometime during the night of February 1st to 2nd, every member of the group died. When the group failed to return by their expected date of February 12th, concern escalated slowly. Weather delays were routine. But by February 20th, a full-scale search operation was underway, involving the Soviet military, local Mansi hunters, and university volunteers. What they found over the following weeks would launch one of the most perplexing investigations in Soviet history. On February 26th, searchers found the tent. It was cut open from the inside. The hikers had slashed their way out with a knife rather than unzipping the entrance. Leading away from the tent were 8 or 9 sets of footprints, most barefoot or in socks, heading downslope toward the forest. Near a large cedar tree, searchers discovered the first 2 bodies, Yuri Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko, dressed only in their underwear, alongside the remains of a small fire. 3 more bodies lay between the cedar and the tent: Dyatlov himself, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustam Slobodin, all apparently trying to return to the tent. It took until May for the remaining 4 bodies to be found, buried under several meters of snow in a ravine. These 4, Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Zolotaryov, Nikolai Thibault-Brignol, and Alexander Kolovatov, displayed injuries that transformed the case from a tragic accident into something far stranger. Now let us turn to the 2 scientific explanations that dominate current scholarship. On the left, the slab avalanche model, published by Johan Gohm and Alexander Puzrin in Nature in 2021. Their key insight is that the hikers' own construction activity, cutting a level platform into the slope for their tent, combined with katabatic wind-driven snow deposition to create conditions for a delayed, small-scale slab avalanche. Crucially, their modeling shows that a slab of this size would not leave the kind of debris field that earlier investigators had expected, which is why the avalanche theory was dismissed in 1959. On the right, the katabatic wind hypothesis argues that a sudden violent downslope wind, essentially a cold air hurricane, struck the tent with such force and noise that the hikers panicked and fled instantly. Each theory has strengths and weaknesses, and neither, on its own, explains every piece of evidence. The Russian Prosecutor General's office, when it briefly reopened the case in 2019, acknowledged that approximately 75 distinct theories have been advanced to explain the Dyatlov Pass deaths. These range from the scientifically grounded slab avalanches, katabatic winds, infrasound-induced panic, to the speculative and the outlandish, secret Soviet weapons tests, Mansi tribal attacks, even extraterrestrial intervention. The 1959 Soviet investigation closed after 3 months with the finding of an unknown compelling natural force, a phrase that has done more to fuel speculation than to settle it. The 2021 reopening by Russian prosecutors concluded that an avalanche was the most probable cause, echoing the Nature paper, but stopped short of closing the file definitively. This is the core dilemma of Dyatlov Pass: 75 theories, and not one of them explains everything. I want to close with a reflection on why this case matters, not just as a mystery, but as a window into how we confront the limits of knowledge. The Dyatlov Pass incident has outlived the Soviet Union that investigated it. It has survived the declassification of its files, the reopening of its investigation, and the application of modern computational modeling to its central puzzle. And yet the mountain has not yielded its final answer. That is, I think, what draws us back: the humbling recognition that for all our analytical sophistication, some events resist neat resolution. The 9 hikers of the Dyatlov group deserve to be remembered not merely as the subjects of a mystery, but as young people who set out into the wilderness with skill, ambition, and the ordinary courage of explorers. Thank you.